You know, in all the time I've been watching Formula 1, I don't think I've ever seen a Grand Prix play out the way that the Hungarian Grand Prix did over the weekend. What was turning out to be quite a straightforward race with not much going on turned out to be a lot more controversial and more difficult than really it should have been. McLaren were running 1-2 for most of the race and well on course to secure their first 1-2 of the season, first 1-2 for a few years. And then the whole incident evolving around team orders played out right in front of our very own eyes in what really should have been a situation that never should have occurred in the first place. And sadly for McLaren, what should have been a celebration of them securing that 1-2 finish on a day where they clearly had the quickest car, and finally after a run of races where they haven't been able to live up to the fact that they have the quickest car in Formula 1 at the moment, it was all overshadowed by something that really should have been avoided quite easily, and yet they put themselves in this position, and it really did, as I say, overshadow what was a fantastic achievement for the team. And the race up until then had gone absolutely to plan. They were both running 1-2, having seen Piastri overtake his teammate Lando Norris at the start, and Lando was able to get back into second place when obviously Max Verstappen, who had overtaken him at turn 1 but gone off the track in doing so, had let him back past, and the two of them pulled away from the rest of the field. But on lap 46, McLaren made the quite surprising decision to pit Norris before Piastri, despite the fact that Piastri was the race leader. And it was then when we had the situation where Piastri was now exposed to the undercut to Norris, that Norris could jump ahead of his teammate despite the fact that Piastri had led the entire race up until then. And the decision to leave Piastri out an extra 2 laps ultimately resulted in the inevitable, where he rejoined behind Norris about 5 seconds behind him when he came out from his second pit stop. And that is when this whole scenario played out, where McLaren tried to orchestrate a switch between the two drivers to have them back in the order that they were before they made their second stops. And as all you guys know, this didn't just play out over a couple of laps. This literally went on for about 15 to 20 laps, and it wasn't exactly comfortable to listen to. It was a really uncomfortable situation for the team, where you had Lando Norris posting fastest laps and building a gap to Piastri, despite the fact that the team was pleading with him to slow down, take it easy on the tyres, and eventually slow down enough to let Piastri retake the lead. I mean, I think Martin Brundle hit the nail on the head when he called it extraordinary what was going on between McLaren and Norris over team radio. I mean, McLaren really were vocal and very public with their radio messages as they're going back and forth with Norris. And Norris, to be fair to him, I don't think he did anything wrong in trying to put up a fight and, fight his corner, and effectively saying, I am the lead McLaren driver in the championship, and this is my opportunity to get maximum points over my nearest rival, which is Max Verstappen, who of course has a healthy lead in the championship. But Norris is obviously thinking about the long game, about the fact that in the second half of the season, if McLaren continue winning races, who knows if he will actually be able to cut the gap enough to fight Max for the World Championship. But the fact that this situation played out really does reflect badly on McLaren. I mean, the fact that they have, and it's not just the Hungarian Grand Prix, this also reflects on pretty much their season as a whole, where they've made really poor decisions both from a management point of view and a strategy point of view. That is exactly what happened on Sunday in Hungary, and really for me was the architect and what should be blamed for the entire incident playing out. No blame should be apportioned on either of the drivers. They were completely not at fault for how this had played out. It was all down to McLaren. This was a situation that was completely unnecessary and could have easily have been avoided if they'd done the sensible thing in deciding to pit Piastri first, given that he was the race leader, giving him the preference over when to pit, and then pitted Norris afterwards. McLaren obviously came up with this, I'm not going to call it an excuse, but they came up with a reason for why they pit Norris first, which was because they didn't want him to get undercut by Hamilton, who was running third at the time. But I don't buy that. I think they could have easily have still finished 1-2. He had enough of a gap, Norris had enough of a gap to Hamilton before he came in for that second stop. For me, it made absolutely zero sense as to why McLaren decided to pit Norris before Piastri, and it made even less sense when the team explained why they chose to do that after the race. Surely, if you were in McLaren's shoes, you'd decide to pit Piastri first to ensure he came out ahead and that he was still leading the race, to prioritise the victory over the fact that they were concerned that they'd lose the 1-2 finish if Hamilton got the jump on Norris. Surely a victory is more important than getting the 1-2 finish. The longer that it went on, it did look as though that Norris was going to be stubborn and ultimately decide not to re-allow his teammate Piastri back through. But in the end, he did obey by the instructions. With 3 laps to go, he let Piastri by, at the first corner, and Piastri went on to take a much deserved first career win in Formula 1. But I'm not going to lie, I really did feel sorry for Piastri. I think just his body language, although he was happy, it meant a lot to him to get that first win. This whole situation overshadowed what should have been a joyous moment for him, winning that race. He's a fantastic driver, a really nice guy. But the fact that he even apologised over the team radio for the situation when he was completely blameless, I really felt for him, because I really feel that he deserved to celebrate this victory on good terms rather than with a situation that clearly kind of undermined what was a fantastic achievement for him on a personal level. And you have to say that you completely understand why Norris wasn't exactly, he wasn't smiling too much, although I think he was putting on a bit of a brave face for the cameras. I think generally deep down he was quite unhappy about how the situation had played out, and the fact that he had lost another win. I mean, if you look at probably even the last 5 races, including Hungary, Lando could have won all of them. He could have been right up, but within sort of 30-40 points of Max now in the championship, and instead he's still more than 3 race wins behind Max in the championship. It's quite extraordinary about how McLaren, despite having the fastest car, have made life so difficult for themselves with poor decisions regarding strategy and their race management, and it's something that they really do need to improve. If I'm being honest, even though the situation should never have played out the way that it did, the fact that it did play out the way that it did, I think that McLaren should have stuck to their guns and kept the order as it was and let Norris go on to take the victory, even though Piastri absolutely deserved it. And I think it's been a long time coming. He's absolutely proved, certainly in the last couple of races, that he's ready to win a race. But I just feel that Norris, he's the lead driver in the championship. He's carrying the hopes of the team really to mount a title bid, even though, as I say, the gap is still quite large, and it is very unlikely that Max is going to be beaten this year. No one knows how it's going to play out in these last 11 races. The fact that Red Bull are now really treading on thin ice and have got all, these teams, McLaren, Mercedes, Ferrari on occasions, circling them like vultures. They've got nowhere to hide anymore. They can't rely on having the fastest car, because they certainly don't have it at the minute. Ultimately, I do think that it's a situation that hasn't really worked in Norris's favour, and it wouldn't have done had it been the roles been reversed and he'd gone on to win. Because let's say he had disobeyed the team orders and gone on to win the race, he would have received a lot of backlash and a lot of criticism from the fans. But now the fact that this situation has played out in the respect that Norris obeyed the order, eventually did go on to obey the orders, people are now saying that he's not thick-skinned, that he hasn't got that sort of Verstappen, Schumacher, Senna mentality, that these great drivers, when this situation is put into their hands, they take it and they say, no, I'm not going to obey an order. I'm here to win a championship. I'm here to win a race. I'm going to take the opportunity when it's there, when it's right in front of me. I think definitely those thoughts would have gone through Norris's head in those last few laps about whether he should be selfish and disobey the order. But in the end, the situation that he was put in, it was never going to work out for him, no matter what the result was, because he was always going to get criticism for whatever he ultimately chose to do. I guess the only thing that he can really hope for now is that he doesn't lose the championship to Max by about 6 points, because ultimately that is the amount of points that he gave up in Hungary. So I think that McLaren have just about avoided what could have been a real PR disaster and really would have caused a real divide in the team. Ultimately that hasn't happened, and they are certainly united as one. There's a real bond in the team. There's a great morale inside McLaren at the minute, because they have got, they've got the best car, they've got the best package. They know that they can be competitive at every single race that's remaining in this season. It's just about execution. That's what they need to improve. They can't keep going from weekend to weekend not taking these chances that they have while they've got the best car, because it's not going to last forever. The other teams are going to catch up. They still have a long way to go to improve certain areas, particularly race management and strategy. Once they get home those areas that are their weaknesses at the minute, they will be really difficult to beat, I think. So this is something that once they get on top of it, who knows what McLaren can go on to achieve in 2024 for the remainder of the season. So that's it for this video. Be sure to let me know in the comment section what you made of the whole McLaren situation during the Hungarian Grand Prix. And if you are new around here, don't forget to like the video and to subscribe to the channel. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.